Well, hi everyone. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartley here today with another episode of Presenting Champions. And today I'm truly honored to be joined by a true legend of the mixed martial arts game. Today's guest, Travis Lutter, who is, of course, the ultimate fighter for Winner, as his place in history secure with that. Obviously, UFC veteran, fought many of the best in the game, including Anderson Silva. And in addition to these achievements, he also has many accolades in the world of grappling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, really too many to list here, but one of the all-time best in that game as well. So, Champ, it really is an honor to have you on the show, and it's great to have you with us. Thank you for making the time for this.
Thank you for having me, man.
Uh,
Appreciate it.
it's an absolute pleasure, and we've got the tech settled in, so that's a good feeling. So getting into it, I think from the present day, and then maybe working backwards to do it that way, do it a little bit different. Obviously, many people will know you're heavily involved in the coaching training side of things. You have your own gym. This is what you've transitioned into post-fighting. Now, some people will know this. For anyone who doesn't, can you share with us a little bit about what your life is like now, some of the work you're doing, training and coaching fighters, and just what life is like for you in 2022, basically. Let's start there, please.
2022 is good. I have my gym in Fort Worth, Texas. I've owned it in January. It'll be 25 years. So the gym actually started before my fight career did. It's like my fight career started, 25 years ago, and like I forget which month it was, but it was in the spring, if I remember correctly. I fought twice that year. The one is not on my record or doesn't show up anywhere. I don't, it's a small organization, same organization I had my second fight in, but that was a long time ago in a place far away, and sometimes not everything got recorded. Yeah, I'm missing quite a few fights on my career on most of the different, like Share Dog and stuff like that. My life is my kids. It's like I have 4 kids. I have a 23-year-old, a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 7-year-old. So it's like my day starts pretty early. With chasing them around, getting them to school, doing that sort of thing, and then I teach. I have my gym in Fort Worth that I have a couple hundred students that train with me. I've got Kevin Holland, who's in the UFC. He fights. He started in my gym, and he still trains with us. He was there on Saturday doing his last training before he heads out to fight this next weekend against Wonder Boy Thompson. But most of my clients are just regular Joes that come in and train to try to get better at something and enjoy life. I teach all the advanced classes at my jiu-jitsu gym. It's like I don't teach the 6 a.m. class because I've got my kids and I've got to take them to school and do all those things. So it's like I don't do that class. But other than that, I teach. It's like a lot of classes a week. I also teach in the wrestling classes, and I teach in the MMA classes. I'm not always the main guy there that's teaching, but it's like what I really enjoy teaching is jiu-jitsu. So,
absolutely. Well, it's a wonderful thing that you're giving back, contributing to people's lives. I mean, it's pretty wild. You've had a gym as long as I've been alive, so that's pretty wild, But it's amazing, and that's part of what's so cool about this process for me is actually going back into MMA history as well. On the subject of that, obviously, you've seen some very big changes in MMA. I mean, as you mentioned at the beginning, it wasn't even documented. I've had a few guys on this show from those early days, like Shannon Rich, Travis View, quite a few different guys who started off before it was even legal. And it would be cool to get your thoughts on like some of the changes you've seen. I know this is a very big question, mind you. Some of the changes you've seen in the sport, both positively and negatively. I don't mind where we go with this. I'm aware with this, I'm asking a very big question, so we might have to hone it down a little bit. But basically, some of your favorite things about how the sport has changed, and maybe a couple of your not so favorite things, if you get where I'm going with this.
yeah.
Good to get your thoughts on that.
I think I was early. I think I'm not always crazy early. That's 1993. And that's one of the, or the OG of MMA.
Yeah.
I had my first fight in 2004 in
Mm.
the UFC. I had my first MMA fight in 1998. It's like, but the changes are huge. It's like the sport has went from being, you know, relatively small to, and not making very much money. It's like, my first MMA fight, I got paid $100. It's like I didn't do it for money. I did it for, just test myself and figure out if I was as good as I thought I was. And it's like my first UFC fight was like I think $2,000. So I got paid $4,000 to walk out there and fight Marvin Eastman. That's a hard way to make a living when you're fighting a tough guy like that in the UFC for the first time, and it's for $4,000 if you win. It's like $2,000 if you don't. So that's probably some of the biggest changes. It's like Kevin makes more in a fight now than I made in my career. It's like one fight and he's making more than I've made my whole entire career. It's a so it's a huge swing, and that noise. But that impacts what I do too. It's like the success of MMA. Helps my jiu-jitsu and MMA gym itself. Like the sport's a lot bigger now, so it's like that's huge. That still there, yeah. It's huge. It's a huge change to everybody's life when when a sport that you're involved in really takes off. The money that these guys make is significant. As far as the actual fighters, it's like there was really good fighters then. There's really good fighters now. There's being in the UFC isn't probably as hard as it was then to get in. Just because there's so many shows and stuff like that, and then there's other organizations that are big that pay decent too. It's like from ONE FC to Bellator that have good fighters and pay a significant amount of money also. But UFC is still the big, it's the best one that you want to be a part of. But back then you had Pride. It's like Pride was awesome. I don't know if you've watched much Pride.
Mm-hmm.
Pride Grand Prix, the Grand Prix, it's like that. No boxing commission really changes things. So it's like Pride was a monster. It's like it was very fun. I got to go to 3 different prides as a cornerman, and I never got to fight there, but it would have been cool. I always really would have liked to have fought in Japan.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's a brilliant insight into some of the changes, and like I said when I asked you that question, it's a very big question, but because you've been around this, you've seen the evolution. I think it's fascinating for people across the different generations because the growth of the sport has been rapid. You touched on obviously jujitsu, and you touched on that being your passion. Now, going back, since we've gone back to the beginning a little bit, as I understand it, you had sort of a Muay Thai background, or you had an interest in that, but it was Royce Gracie that inspired you to switch to the jiu-jitsu side of things. I'd like to go back to talk about that era because obviously it wasn't like it is now when this is $1 billion sport and there's so much awareness. You would have had to really dig deep. You would have had to really want to know about jiu-jitsu, and it probably was harder to get a hold of. So can you share with us a little bit about that initial inspiration and the time that fire inside of you was initially lit with regards to jiu-jitsu itself, if that makes sense?
So like I grew up wrestling in high school and college.
Yeah.
And so when the UFC came out in 1993, I was a sophomore in college at the time, and I happened to watch it, and I decided right then and there that was something I had to learn, was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, watching Hoist do his thing against these bigger, better wrestlers. It's like I was like, okay, I have to learn Jiu-Jitsu. I didn't like the idea that somebody that was smaller than I was, that was beating up on guys that were bigger than me. And so I was like, I have to learn jiu-jitsu. And so I lived in South Dakota, which is in the Midwest, in the central part of the United States. And, the closest jiu-jitsu gym was, about 1,000 miles away in Dallas, Texas. And then there was, you had on the East Coast, you had, LA, you had, a couple different gyms in LA. There might have been, in some of the surrounding areas in California. It started to spread out by then. And then also New York, Kenzo was in New York. And so I really started looking. And in 1995, I made my first trek to Dallas to work with Carlos Machado, who's a cousin of Gracie's, that came to Dallas to work with Chuck Norris. He moved here in 1995, and I came down to work with him. And I would come down a week at a time. I was still in college, and I'd come down on spring break and Christmas break and things like that, and during the summer. And then that was, that was an interesting phase of my life. It's like before I finally moved to Texas in 1997, and then I opened my gym in 1998. So as a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. So
Yeah, amazing. Obviously, we'll come back to MMA itself and talk more about that. But you do have some amazing achievements in jiu-jitsu as well. I'd like to get your thoughts on some of your proudest moments of your career, because I know this is another big question. And I try and ask things that are a little different because obviously there's a lot of interviews out there where you've gone very, very in depth about the fights themselves. I listened to some of the Lights Out podcast that
yeah.
you did 3 hours. So, so asking some broader stuff, hopefully it'll open up a few different thought processes. But when you look back on your career now in jiu-jitsu or in MMA itself, what are some of your proudest moments? I mean, I imagine that the Ultimate Fighter is obviously in there somewhere, but some others that stand out to you as being the most special out of everything that you've achieved. Is there anything that comes to mind? Maybe one, maybe more than one, that type of thing?
I was I didn't compete a crazy amount in jiu-jitsu, especially like internationally and stuff like that. I was invited to do the Ultimate Submission Showdown that was put on by Rorion Gracie, which is Royce Gracie's brother, who started the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And so he started the Ultimate Submission Showdown in 2003. And there's only one show of it, and it's because his sons didn't win. He put both of his sons, Horion's sons, or he has three sons, but he put two of them into the tournament, and on opposite sides of the bracket, didn't even bring a checkbook to the thing, and that's how confident he was that he was going to have his kids win. And Jeff Munson was there, David Avalon. There was a few other martial arts. There was a Sambo guy there. There was, it's like, and then me, and then the brothers, and so I ended up winning that. I beat one of the Gracies along the way, Haran Gracie, and his brother lost on the other side of the bracket to David Avalon, who I beat in the finals. It's like that was probably, outside of the Ultimate Fighter winning that, that's probably my, proudest moment. And for jiu-jitsu, that's my proudest moment. That was a submission wrestling world championship that he started. They finally released it. I think you can watch it on Amazon. I've never sat down and watched it or anything like that, but they recorded it and put it in the can for 20 years or something like that. And I've heard this. I've had some of my students tell me that they've watched it. I've never sat down and watched it, but it's a long time ago in a place far, far away. But it was a cool experience. I also won, or I took second as a blue belt. My first international tournament was in Brazil. So the IBJJF World Champions started in 1996, and I went 1998 to the second one as a blue belt. And up until that point, I'd never had a match go to decision. I'd won all my matches by submission. It was 30 some matches. It's blue belts and stuff like that, Texas guys. So that was my first international competition. And it was only my second time on a commercial airliner. I'm a country boy from South Dakota, so it's like I'd only ever flown on a commercial airline once, and it was like 6 months before that. flew all the way to Brazil and competed. And it was a really cool experience. I feel really, really lucky that I got to do that. I ended up taking second. I lost 2-2 match, and I think I lost by advantage in the finals. But the score was for sure 2-2. I didn't understand the rules that much, or at least the scorekeeping at IBJJF at that point. But yeah, so that's probably my second most favorite, memory, was just going to Brazil and doing that. I only did the Worlds in Brazil twice. I did it maybe 1998 and then 2000, and I took third as a purple belt in 2000. I lost in the semis, and again, I think I submitted my way through the tournament until I ran into somebody that I didn't catch, and I lost on points. But yeah, so that's that story.
Amazing. It's incredible to hear it from your point of view, because you're very humble about your achievements, but from the outside looking in, there's a lot of them. So to pick up some of your favorites from that is just incredible. So thank you.
Thank
Obviously,
you.
people will want to hear about the Ultimate Fighter and your memories from that. And I know, obviously, with this, we're moving around in time a little bit, but it's cool to get your thoughts on different topics. So, in terms of the Ultimate Fighter itself, your memories from that. I mean, it's one thing. It's the same as the jiu-jitsu and everything. It's one thing to watch. It's another thing to be there and be sort of in the trenches with that. So obviously, how did it feel to win it? What were some of your favorite moments from the process, the highs and lows? Anything you would like to share about the Ultimate Fighter itself? I mean, I think it's one of those things that you're recognized for, and rightly so, even though there's a lot of other achievements there.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get into it from in your own words, basically, please.
The Ultimate Fighter experience was one where I was asked to go out to Vegas and interview for it. And you also go through all the like physical stuff that they have, the blood tests. You go to the doctors, all these things, and it's like, I showed up and I didn't want to go. A couple of my buddies, I told them that I was asked, and they were like, you got to go do this. I'm like, I don't want to spend 6 weeks in the house. And they're like, you can do 6 weeks. And I go like, no, my son at the time, he was like 8 or 9 years old, in 2006 when we filmed, he would have been, 7 years old. Yeah. So, right. Yeah. 7 years old and 8 years old. Yeah, somewhere in there. It's like, 6. Yeah, he would have been 8 years old. 8 years old. So he's as young as my youngest. And I was like, I didn't want to leave him. And for 6 weeks. And it's like explaining to your 8-year-old kid that you're going to be gone for this long was really, really tough. And he just turned 8. But my buddies eventually convinced me that I had to go. And it's like, at least try out. At least try out. And so it's like I get on the plane, I go out there, and as soon as I land, the competitive spirit kicks in, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get on the show. It's like I don't want to. I'm here. I might as well get on. It's like, and then I can decide if I don't want to do it. So I got competitive, and my thing was I don't talk a crazy amount socially, but I'm me. And so it's like they're shuttling us around Vegas, going from this doctor and then this blood test, and then you got to go to this interview for the UFC to see if they want to get you on the UFC on it. And they're, it's like we're being shuttled around. I think there's 14 of us in this van, or 13 of us in the van, however many people are in the van. And I'm not riding bitch. I'm not going to get in the back. I'm going to sit in shotgun. That's just my seat. I'm just kind of that way. And it's like, I really would have preferred to drive. I don't like really riding, but it's like, I'm not going to be that asshole. But I was like, around these other fighters, I am going to be the guy that's going, I'm not going to sit back. And so, that was my seat. You're traveling with the same group all day long, going from thing to thing to thing. And and the first time or two we got in the van, I made sure that I sat in that seat. If I needed to elbow somebody out, I was going to elbow them out. Now, keep in mind, these are all MMA fighters, yeah, from my weight class and stuff like that. And then I started playing with it and seeing if when I could get on to the thing. I could get on last. Nobody would sit in my seat. They're all sitting in their seat, different seats, but it's like I always sat shotgun. And so we finally go to the interview, and the producer's talking to me a little bit. He takes a phone call and leaves. I don't know if he was bored or what, but the assistant producer is asking me why I should be on the show. And I tell her that story. I'm that guy. It's like I'm the guy that's going to, kick the other fighters out of the seat. This is mine. I'm me. This is me. And she thought it was funny. And it's like, and she asked me to tell the producer back. And I'm 100% convinced that's how I got on the show. The actual show was, I decided I wanted to do it. I decided I wanted to win. The show is pretty rough. It's like there's no TV, there's no cell phones, there's no books. You could have one book, and you could have like a religious book. So it's like I ended up reading a buddy of mine's Bible. About 3/4 of the Old Testament, 100% of the New Testament, just for something to read, because I was, it's like after a week of being on the show. Or recording the show, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You've heard every story that every other fighter in there has. It's like you got 16 guys on the show. Well, you're one of them, so that's 15. And then you've got 8 guys on the other team, which they're on a different schedule. You don't mingle with them as much as you would think. It's only a few hours at night that you're really in the house at the same time. So you're not really seeing them. So you've got 7 other guys that you're mingling with. So 7 stories, it's like after a week, it's like, fuck, I don't want to talk to those guys anymore. It's like, so I went and borrowed a Bible, and I started reading that just for something to read, because there was nothing else to do. I'd play chess once a day and things like that. The actual training was great. The training was great. I had my first fight. I won that. I won it quick. The next day I tore my pec. So I have a great big hole in my chest still right here. It's like that makes I'm a little deformed in my pec, but that's it happens, no big deal. But I couldn't train. I couldn't train for the last 3 weeks. I could run, and that was real painful for the first week and a half. Was even just running. And then I could shadow box. I couldn't really hit mitts. I could do it with my left hand, but I couldn't throw my right. And I knew I had to fight again. It's like, because if I say, hey, I can't fight, they took me to a doctor, but I had to keep it private from the rest of my team, much less the other team. Because it's like, I don't want anybody to know that I'm injured, so like I go to the doctor, kind of on the down low. You disappear for an afternoon one day from the house, and but you still got to go to training and stuff like that. So they set you up. You go to the doctor. They take you. The doctor looks at it and goes, hey, I can fix it. I can fix it, but you're not going to be able to do the next fight. It's like you're going to sit. It's like, and so I would have been done. So it's like all the sacrifice, being away from your family and your kid, would have been for naught. I was like, I don't want to do that. It's like, can I fight? He's like, yeah, you can fight. It's just you're not going to be 100%. And so I was like, that's fine. I can beat these guys with. I don't know who I'm fighting next, but it's like, it's like that. I can do this. And so and then I think you fight the next fight, and it's like, okay, it's like they didn't even offer to fix it after that, and I wouldn't have fixed it because I had to fight Patrick Cote in the next fight in the finals. But that was months later, but it wouldn't have been healed. I would have lost training time, all that stuff. So I just let it heal the way that it is. So I just have a deformed pec that's slightly weaker than my other one. The actual experience of being on the show, is boredom, and followed by instances of craziness and funny. The fighting was fun. The training was fun when I could train. It sucks that I missed 3 weeks of it, but it was still good. I ended up training the last few days very painfully before my fight. I ended up winning the fight by decision against Pete Sell, and then that set me up for the finals. But they send you home, and then they go home, they edit it, they do all the TV stuff, and we go home and we train, and then we show up for the finals. 6 months later, on 11/11, I think of '06. If I remember, I think it was 11/11. Yeah, that we fought, and I ended up winning that. My pec was fairly healed. It's like ended up winning it. And that was kind of the story of the Ultimate Fighter for me.
Amazing. It's as I said to you before, I mean it's very cool to get your sort of behind the scenes or the inside track on that, because it's one thing to watch it. Um, Another thing about the Ultimate Fighter before we move on from that is in terms of obviously the exposure that generated for you and things like this. It would be good to get your thoughts on that in terms of the popularity of the show and how you dealt with being, seen to that level. Because, even though you were obviously achieving things up until that point, was it a very big shift, or was it sort of a small thing and you just carried on with your life, or how did that side of things go?
It's like when the Ultimate Fighter debuted. A guy went from being, never recognized. It's like I was never recognized to being, not really being able to go to dinner in like Fort Worth like I was used to. Because somebody was going to come up to you and talk to you like, in the middle of your dinner, like your food comes out, they want to talk for 30 minutes, and so it was a change. It was fun. It was fun being, kind of famous for a minute. We, had a good time, and it's like I'm happy I got to do it. But it's like I didn't love being famous. It's like it's like famous if you've got money and power, and you're famous. That's great. It's like uh, being famous and an MMA fighter that makes no money is not that fun. It's like it was. Because people thought you had money, but I didn't. I made, fight Anderson Silva. I got paid $20,000, and I missed weight, so they took 10% of that or 20% of it, whatever it was. I got 16,000. I forget which one it was, and so it's like that doesn't go very far when you set, when you're doing that. So it's like a guy definitely wasn't rich, and that a guy who's just famous. So it's like I'll take the money any day.
That's fair enough. I get where you're coming from. So moving into a few more things. Yeah, but the Anderson Silva fight, as soon as we've mentioned that, it'd be good to get your memories of that fight. We'll talk about that. Then I want to move into a couple of other things like your advice for young athletes, your mindset and a few
Yeah.
other things, more intangible things. But first, yeah, Anderson Silva, I mean, obviously, he's still very active to this day. I know it's boxing now and everything like that. Talk us through what it was like to fight him. I mean, this is going to be one of the fan favorite questions. The same type of thing as the Ultimate Fighter, just your memories of it and what you'd like to share, please.
The Anderson Silva fight, is like at the time, it's like everybody was kind of scared to fight it. I'd talked to a couple of guys that that had fought him. I saw what he did to Rich Franklin in that first fight. I saw what he did to Chris Lieben. It's like, the guy could fight. It's like a really, really dangerous fight. But I had watched him in Pride, and it's like I saw him get, that scissor heel hook, which is, that's not a great MMA move or whatever, but he got caught. It's like I saw him lose before. It's like as far as his stand up, he's really, really dangerous. He's a lot better stand up fighter than I was. He's faster, younger. He was better. As far as jujitsu and wrestling, I thought I was a very good matchup for him. So it's like that I had potential to beat him. I would like to do that one over, or I would have liked to have done that one over when I was younger. I'd do it today, but it's like he's I don't think he'd be down. But yeah, it's like he's Anderson is Anderson, and it's like I would like to have done that one over again. It was an honor to fight him. It's like I'm happy for all of his success. I would have liked to have done that one over though for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, it's a great achievement. You're very brutally honest about some of these things, which is good. A great achievement nonetheless. Moving into a couple of other things, your mindset, so for this now sort of the tail end of this talk, I think is something that is well, it can be overlooked in the game. I mean, not so much these days. There's a lot more awareness, but you've mentioned things like obviously fighting where you were injured, and you've mentioned this stuff, and I'm curious to get a little bit of an insight into your mindset in terms of the mental discipline, the mental toughness that it takes to compete at the highest level and consistently compete at the highest level. So basically, the question here is on the build up to a big fight, or around the high of your career, what were you doing mentally? I mean, were you visualizing? Were you putting it out of your mind altogether? I'd just be curious to get a look inside your mind, like on the build up to a big fight and a big opportunity, basically.
I would practice every day visualization and seeing myself, going through the fight, seeing different problems that I might or might not have, going with the game plan that I wanted to fight, fighting the pace I wanted to fight. Based on my style, I can, it's like if I have the gas, I can, set the pace and things like that. So I was, my attitude is it's like, with fighting it was never about being famous. It was never about being rich. It was about seeing if I was as good as I thought I was. And so I went out there with the idea that I'm going out here to do this, and I'm going to put myself in the best possible place to win. So I look at myself kind of brutally honest. By the time I'm fighting Anderson Silva, I'm 35 years old. I know that I wasn't as fast as I was when I was 25. He's faster probably today than I ever was. It's like he was a fast guy, or he's still fast. He's just, but I felt like I could go out there and impose my will on him, take him down, pass his guard, and beat him up. I got caught in the second round. It's like a guy like that is tough. I made a mistake, good for him, golf clap. It's like, but it's, MMA as sometimes, there's so many ways to lose. It's like not always the best guy wins. I think I was the best guy that night. It's like I think for a short time I was the best guy in the world. I didn't get to quite prove that I was. I came close, but I think that year 2006, it's like some of the guys I beat, things like that. I showed that I was capable of beating anybody in the world at that day. And that year, my time was cut short a little bit. I ended up with a 3-level fusion in my neck. I actually busted one of the vertebrae in half, right before my last fight. And that shortened up my career a little bit. I would have liked to have fought a little bit longer, but I consider myself a little bit luckier than some of my other guys that I fought alongside, because I have, I think I have most of my brain cells left. It's like, some of those guys, are a little bit slower than they might have been when they were, they're getting a little boxy at the end, and that's unfortunate. I feel bad for those guys. It's like I have friends with, with one friend with Parkinson's, from boxing induced Parkinson's. I have another friend that, it's like, I think he has it too. It just hasn't been diagnosed yet. It's like fighting's a hard way to make a living. It's like me having that injury probably saved brain cells, and I'll probably live a lot longer, happier life, or at least happier life than hopefully those guys. It's like, because without my brain, it's like, how would I do what I need to do? It's like I want to be able to enjoy this part of my life. I don't want to be a vegetable. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good way of looking at it, flipping a negative into a positive and sort of turn that on its head. And it's a very good way of looking at it. So brilliant. Okay, so that touches on the mindset a little bit as well. Another thing here, I love asking this question because this is sort of a giving back question. Your advice for up and coming athletes, but also if you want to, we can broaden this for your advice for anybody who wants to achieve a big dream or a big goal, whether it's in fighting or it's in something else. I know there's probably a lot of advice you could give, but if there was just a couple of things, sort of essential ingredients, if you like for cooking, what would you say on that subject?
If I'm talking to an MMA fighter, an aspiring MMA fighter, the first and most important thing is finding yourself a good gym. You know, don't go to the one that's closest to you. Unless it's a world class gym. So you need a world class instructor to help you do what you need to do, and you're not going to get there. It's like let's say that you have all the physical attributes, you have the mental attributes. It's like you're still going to need coaching. It's like you need to have a team behind you that can help you go to the next level. And it's like, so go find the best coach that you can find that's reasonably close. I moved, over 2,000, over 1,000 miles away, yeah, to train with Carlos Machado, who is considered by Chuck Norris to be the best teacher amongst the Gracies. It's like, and that's why I was in Dallas, Texas, is to train with Carlos Machado. I got my black belt from Carlos. I got my foundation in jiu-jitsu from Carlos Machado. It's like that really sets me apart in jiu-jitsu from a lot of guys in the MMA world. So finding a good gym to really concentrate on and focus. I think that's really important, for an aspiring MMA fighter. So that's my word of advice to those guys. For your average Joe, that wants to train or wants to, chase whatever dreams, do it. It's like you're not getting any younger. It's like we only go around this rock, around another rock that's on fire, X amount of times, and it's not very many. It's like if you're lucky, you get to go around 100 times, or unlucky if you want to look at it that way. It's like I don't want to get old either, but it's like you only go around so many times. Do it today. Don't wait till tomorrow. It's like the best time to start training jiu-jitsu is when you're 6, 7 years old, or today. It's like if you're 50, today is the day. It's like you should go out there and start training, and see if you like it. If you like it, great. Chase it. Go for it. Go, try to get as good as you can. Because it's like life is short. There's no guarantee of tomorrow, and you need to find out if this is for you, and go find out.
Well, there's some powerful advice there. I mean, I knew it would be a good answer, but it's a really good answer. And it is time-tested wisdom from everything you've achieved. So thank you for that. Last couple of things, literally, these ones should be pretty brief, and then we'll wrap this up, because obviously I don't want to take up too much of your day. So last two things. One is your future plans. I mean, obviously we've spent a lot of time looking back. But right now, we were just talking about the dreams and goals and things that light our fire. So for you, obviously, you've got the gym, you're having great success with that. You mentioned Kevin and his fight coming up. So that's obviously an immediate thing. But in terms of looking a bit further forward and what's lighting your fire now, just talk to us a little bit, please, about some of the dreams that you'd like to achieve going forward from here.
Dreams going forward, it's like I'd like to make my gym, a little bit bigger, a little bit more, develop some more fighters, make some more world champions. That's always fun. It's like as far as my own personal goals, it's like my kids are really, really important to me. My wife is very, very important to me. It's like making sure they're happy and well taken care of. It's like going, making memories with them is probably the most important thing that I have going on in my life. Personal goal for myself is probably I like to get an airplane pilot's license. That'd be a good personal goal that I've wanted to do it for a long time, and today's probably a good day to start. So.
Very cool. Yeah, it's good to touch on a few things outside of combat as well. And the last question, pretty much, is obviously just to give a mention to your fans and your supporters around the world. I mean, I'd imagine obviously on social media you get messages of people, encouraging you or asking for advice or doing different things. I mean, I'm not too sure, but that type of stuff. But just to give a shout out to people who have supported you, whether it's in the past, whether it's in the future, or whether they're supporting you now, what would you say to the people who are positive, encouraging, whether they're people physically in your life or whether they're people who are even sort of thousands of miles away like me, but they're trying to give some encouragement? What would you say to your fans and supporters around the world, really? That's the last question.
Thank you. You know, it's like it's nice to you know it's nice when people message me. You know, it's like it's been a long time since I fought. It's been a long time since I it's like it's always fun when people now it's like it doesn't happen very often. So it's like if somebody comes up to me and says hello, that's fun. You know, the other night I was at dinner and the waitress brought me what I'd ordered and said, it's like, oh, by the way, your food's been paid for. And I'm like, by who? She's like, I can't say, but your food's been paid for. I go, okay, like that's nice. It's like I eat my food and I get up and I leave a tip and I'm walking out the door and a guy stops me and I go, did you buy my food? And he's like, yeah, I'm just a fan. I just wanted to say thank you. And it's like, there's people like that are out there. It's like, he let me eat my food in peace. He, he bought my food. He didn't even want a picture. He wanted to shake my hand, tell me thank you. And it's like, there's people like that are out in the world that are very, very nice and very, very considerate. And that's always nice to hear from somebody like that. It's like, that was a nice human. So thank you to those guys. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, the last thing for me to do, champ, once again, like I said at the beginning, thank you for taking time out of your day for this, and it's been great to talk with you. Thank you for being an open book about everything, and yeah, just thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.